when you're up against it and it's it's an elimination game, you got to put what you think is going to be your best guy out there. So the brain trust of the New York Yankees put the right guy out there, and the big bats came through. So this is their way that they have to win, and when they're hitting like this, they're a very difficult team to beat. I will say they had a couple of issues yesterday, but for the most part, they gave their fans everything that they wanted, everything that you and I expected would happen, but now it ends. Let's be honest. We're playing the Astros. The Astros is they are and have been the best team in baseball for a long time. And you just went down the rundown, and the Yankees are up against it. They played 5 games this series. The Astros are kind of bored. They swept the Mariners in 3 games. Although that second game was really like 2 games to 1 because they won 18 innings. But let's face it. I mean, the Astros are the best team in baseball, have been the best team in baseball, and are rested. And nobody, believe me, in Houston is going to be intimidated by the New York Yankees.
See, I disagree with that. I still think that they are probably thinking to themselves, it would have been better if it were the Guardians, because that's a free ticket to the World Series. And then you're playing 2 wild card teams and the winner of that NLCS. I'm sure they'd rather not see the Yankees, especially with the Yankees looking like the Yankees yesterday. And, oh, by the way, Garrett Cole looking like the best pitcher left in the postseason in the 2 starts he had against the Guardians. So,
remember you were talking about Jameson Taillon and how you felt bad for him yesterday.
Well, he's got a shot.
Listen, now he's got a shot. He's got a shot. To do something really, really special for himself, and that is go out and try to outpitch Justin Verlander,
who was terrible in his start against the Mariners. So, he's coming off a bad start. He had a phenomenal regular season, but he did not look like himself in the playoffs. And, of course, he's an older guy. I don't know if he's, getting fatigued towards the end of the season. They've had a lot of time off. But the Yankees also in this series, I understand they're going back-to-back, and they're celebrating last night, and they're traveling, and then they got to play the Astros, who have been sitting around. But it's not like the Yankees haven't had rest in baseball terms, meaning that, they had 5 days off going into this series. They had a day off in between games 1 and 2. They had 2 days off, actually 2 days off between games 1 and 2 because of the rain out, right? So they had a regular scheduled day off, then a rain out, then they ended up playing on Friday. They had another extra day off because of a rain out. So, they've had plenty of time from the end of the regular season to now. It's just that this feels very, very tight. The beat the Guardians, champagne celebration, playing Astros the next day.
Yeah, so, this is baseball. They're all used to it. This is what they do for a living. And now it's just at a heightened awareness level and an intensity level, which is what we all want. This is what we all wanted. This is what almost everybody in baseball that covers baseball, talks about baseball, said this is what was going to happen in the American League, especially with the way that the Yankees started the first half of the season. Mm-hmm. So, by the way, the Yankees got deeper into the playoffs this year than last year.
Well, they already did that.
Yeah. But the point being is, isn't that like a sign of improvement? So, are we still firing Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone?
This is an interesting question.
Yeah.
Because, all right, the expectations changed multiple times throughout the year. So, before the season started, everybody was down on the offseason. They hated what Brian Cashman did. The fact that they had their 3rd choice at first base, which probably ended up being the best choice in Rizzo and the way that he fits in with this team. Freddie Freeman had a great year, but still, Rizzo, and he had some time on the IL, but
and
still.
Plus, you're not paying him all that much money.
Right, exactly. It's a difference
comparatively.
There. And then the IKF thing, they didn't like that, and then you didn't pay, Judge didn't accept the contract, and you felt like it was a low ball in there, and everybody hated the offseason. So going into the season down, not going to happen this year.
How are you feeling about Nestor Cortez?
Right. So then they get off to this unbelievable start.
Okay.
Right? And the expectation is they're the best team in baseball.
Oh, my God.
They're the best team in baseball. They have to go to the World Series. They have to win it this year.
But how could they be the best team in baseball with such a bad offseason?
Right, all right. But here we go. Okay. Now we hit August.
Yes.
And the Yankees have one of the worst months of August in the history of their organization.
All right, and they lose like 10 guys to injury.
So the expectation is back down again.
Yeah, but the point being is they lost a ton of guys to injury, and their bullpen is still, filled with guys who probably wouldn't be there if the other guys that were supposed to be there weren't injured.
And that brings me to the next step.
Okay.
Which is the guys come back. They've got a good September. Judge is making history, 62. The Yankees are back. They win the division. They get the bye. They're playing better baseball, and they're healthy. Now the expectations are back up there. So what Yankee fan expectation level is there right now going into this series? Is it we better go to the damn World Series because we were the best team in baseball, now we're back healthy again? Or is it, this team's just better than we are, and if we somehow find a way to win, that would be great, but I don't expect it. And to me, it has to be the former, not the latter. I mean, this is an opportunity for the Yankees to slay the dragon. And by the way, look around baseball. As I mentioned before, the Padres beat the Dodgers. The Phillies beat the Braves. I mean, these are the best teams. The Padres beat the Mets. The best teams in baseball went down to teams that were heavy favorites. So why can't the Yankees win this series and beat the Astros?
We had the two favorites that have made it.
Yeah.
These are the two favorites. They've made it from day one. They were the favorites. But
the Yankees now are a massive underdog in this series.
Except for the Yankee fan who was so disgusted by this offseason. But meanwhile, they go out and they get Carpenter, who has an amazing impact. Doesn't look like he's ready to even play right now, though. Even though they took a shot with him last night and his at-bat was just awful. But you take a look at, Cabrera, for instance. They bring him up, and what does he do? He's playing all over the diamond.
Yep.
So much so, in fact, they have so much confidence in him that they put him at shortstop after IKF played 3/4 of the season there, or almost 7/8 of the season.
Right. They put Gonzalez in left after the Hicks injury and Cabrera at short, as opposed to keeping Cabrera out there and then bringing IKF in. So that just shows you where they feel about IKF as well as how they feel about Cabrera. But, yeah, I mean,
But my point, all I'm saying is that for literally the last 3 months, get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy, fire this person, fire that. And you know what? The team gave the fans something really to cheer about. This is a fan base that booed Aaron Judge in this series. This is a fan base that has booed Giancarlo Stanton since he got here. And both of those guys show up yesterday in the biggest spot. You know what I mean? It's just like it just goes back and forth and up and down and screaming and yelling and
that's
firing.
What a baseball season is. It's so long.
Well, it's adversity. Adversity is going to hit every team. It's the same thing that happens in football. And it's maddening that we're finally here. And then when you go back and you listen to all the arguments being made as they were trying to get to this point, you think about how ridiculous it all is.
Sure, but this is how we live as fans. I mean, what are you going to do? Just say they're going to be fine? They're going to be fine?
Well,
I mean,
no, they're not going to be fine in this series.
Right, they gave you extremes.
I told you they're not going to be fine in this series. This is like I don't even know when I said it about the Astros. It was probably July or something.
Yeah.
When did the Astros and the Yankees play?
I'd have to go back and look at the schedule. But, yeah, I mean, you said they were the best team in baseball, and then they also played the Mets in that same, month.
Spanked them,
and they
too.
Spanked the Mets, and that's when you're saying they're the best team in baseball.
And by the way, I'm being they spanked the Mets, and they spanked the Yankees.
Yeah, and they
had
the
spanking going on.
Right, and
that's when I said, look, that they're the best team in baseball.
Right,
and I have not gotten away from that.
You have not, and you think you're very confident in it being over, but I think what we saw, even though this series went 5, and it shouldn't have gone 5, I think what we saw in the course of this series makes you feel good about the Yankees, meaning that Garrett Cole's on top of his game, Nestor Cortez is on top of his game. And by the way, even though Aaron Judge had a rough series and a lot of strikeouts, he had a big home run yesterday and another base hit, and it looks like his timing's coming back, and Giancarlo Stanton is doing what he does in the postseason, which is hit. So the best version of the Yankees, in my opinion, even though the Guardians took him to the brink, but the best version of the Yankees is here heading into this series, albeit with Jamison Tyone on the mound tonight, which you don't love, but they're playing good baseball. You can't say that they're not capable of beating the Astros. They're an underdog, yes.
I didn't say that.
But you said it was over.
Well, I'm just saying you have to play the games. There's a reason why the games are played. I remember when the Giants went to the Super Bowl in 2007. That was the year that Craig walked across the bridge in a Speedo because, he said that they couldn't do it, and he ended up with the hemorrhoids and the whole thing.
Right.
And I just said, there's something about a team that seems special, a team that seems like it's on its way to destiny. And that was the whole argument, that they would make it to the Super Bowl. So, I understand that they have all the opportunity in the world to do something that I don't think that they can do.
Okay.
That's all. It's just me. I just think I'm just being honest. I'm just trying to be honest.
Now, we've seen a couple of things, obviously, with underdogs winning in this baseball postseason. We've also seen, teams that sat around didn't do as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Astros did okay, and the Yankees ended up going to 5 with the Guardians, but the teams that sat around didn't do as well. So are we now going to apply that same mentality to the Yankees and Astros tonight and say that the Astros have been sitting around? That's not good for a baseball team, and the Yankees momentum-filled heading down to Houston, even though the pitching matchup is unfavorable for them, have an advantage because they've played more games recently? I mean...
No, I don't know. I mean, like you never know with baseball. Baseball's,
But everybody seems to know,
every day is a different day. I'll tell you what, we all knew that these two teams were going to meet in the ALCS.
Got a little dicey.
That's because
a little dicey.
That's because the Yankees didn't do what they were supposed to do and cakewalk through Cleveland, and now they've put a lot of pressure on their arms. The arms have a lot of pressure on them now.
Well, I mean, I really believe, yes, the arms do have a lot of pressure on them, but if the Yankees hit, they will win. This is what we were saying yesterday. They needed to hit yesterday. Their big guns had to do it, and they did.
They had 6 hits yesterday.
But still, they hit home runs.
It's home runs.
Right.
That's right. That's why all the analytics animals are talking about launch angles and home runs.
Yeah.
And another really good news came out today. That Bob Costas is not doing this. Is not doing this.
That's right.
Series.
Brian Anderson will be doing this series with Jeff Francoeur and Ron Darling. So
which would be good. That would be fine. That would be a much better listen.
Yeah, and I guess Costas is going to be in the studio doing some stuff for them.
Pre-game host because Ernie Johnson's got NBA.
Right. So that's what you've got there.
Or he can tell his stories there. Right. He could be a storyteller there if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, he had that big screw-up yesterday with the not knowing the Yankees won the 2009 World Series. And
that
it comes
could happen
back
to anybody. And he came back and he cleaned it up. And
right.
It was fine. That stuff I don't mind. I mean, it's just and I guess Andrew Marchand wrote about it this morning. Something like he finally quieted down and let the game breathe. And I'm like, what is it? Andrew Marchand must be just kissing his ass or something.
It had to be. And when Matt Carpenter comes up, as you mentioned that at bat, he gave a Matt Carpenter soliloquy.
Yes.
I mean, he went through this guy's entire life when he
should hire him as a eulogizer. He could be a Googleizer.
It was crazy. But anyway,
right.
It's all's well that ends well. It's easier to deal with Bob Costas when your team is winning as opposed to your team losing. So a lot of Yankee fans weren't complaining as much about it because they get out to the 3-0 lead and then they end up cruising and winning 5-1. But this is it, and you get right into it. And I don't know, like if you're in that, as a guy who has had to, and football's different than baseball as we know, but like if you're thinking about the Astros and you have to play the next day and travel, like how much are you celebrating yesterday after the game?
I think, these guys, again, so the 24 to 30-year-old person is different than the 61-year-old that you're sitting next to.
Yeah.
So I try to think about it back when I played. And there is some celebrating going on.
Yeah.
And for these guys, it's a normal thing what they're doing. They're getting on a plane and they're going to play baseball the next day. It's normal for them. Mm-hmm. They'll get their sleep and hopefully Jamison Tyon gets a really good night's rest because it's going to be on him in the beginning of this game, not to let the game get out of hand. And I don't want to hear the announcers talking about how the Yankees are exhausted from this 5-game series.
No excuses.
Against the Guardians.
No excuses here.
So I would just say that, from my perspective, it's finally here. Mm-hmm. It's finally here. Yeah. After all the screaming and yelling that has been going on about get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy. Aaron Judge is going to San Francisco. Our shortstop sucks. I mean, it's just mind-numbing. They're finally here. They're deep into the playoffs. They're better this year than they were last year. Could somebody give somebody other than Aaron Judge some credit?
Sure, but if they lose,
not enough. But now,
if they lose this series,
now what?
They're supposed to be built to win the American League and get to the World Series and beat the Astros. That is the point.
If they lose this series, then that means they do not have the right to rebuild the Yankees because they are morons.
Morons.
Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. Yes, the right to rebuild this
team.
I'm
kind of like conflicted. Like I really feel like the Astros are going to win, but I also want to give the Yankees credit.
Yeah.
They've done what we expected them to do.
Yeah, I need to see them play well in this series, though. They have to. They cannot get smacked around by the Astros because then all the goodwill goes away. All right, it is, Boomer, it's true. That's what it is. That's what being a Yankee is. That's what being a Yankee fan is, right? I mean, all the fan base will tell you the same thing. You get smacked around by the Astros in the ALCS. You think they're going to be happy about it? It was a nice, cute little season. Hell no.